friends. Welcome to the Seek Holy Living podcast with christasvoboda. I am a wife to my wonderful husband, mom to my 5 precious children, and a friend to some amazing moms that I can't wait to introduce to you. Mothering is not a journey meant to be traveled alone. Join me every Monday for a new podcast where you will find hope, joy, and purpose. Happy Thanksgiving! What a joy it is to be a mom during the holiday seasons. We have all these opportunities to create memories that will fill the hearts and minds of our children for years to come. Joining me today to talk about how to create a meaningful Thanksgiving are 2 of my dear friends, Michelle Akrami and Heidi Ollman. Michelle has 5 children between the ages of 4 and 10, and Heidi has 3 children, ages 13, 18, and 20. Both of these ladies demonstrate hearts of gratitude that shape the cultures of their families, and I know you'll enjoy your time with them today. Well, thank you guys so much both for being here today. Thank you, Michelle, for coming back again.
Thanks for having me again.
It's going to be so fun. And thank you, Heidi, for joining us. I'm so glad you can be here.
I'm really happy to be here.
Good. We're going to have a great time talking. And how much fun to get to talk about Thanksgiving. Yay. It's such a wonderful holiday, and I just so look forward to it. But one of the things I've been thinking about is that every time we have any kind of a holiday, any year, there are always stressors that can just try to suck the joy out of everything that you hoped that the holiday would be. And I think as a mom, we have a chance to be able to go in prepared to fight for what we want, to set a vision for what we want for the holiday season, and to also fight to make that actually happen. So guys, this is like the weirdest Thanksgiving ever, because especially where we are in Southern California, we are coming, I don't know if it's coming off of COVID or in the middle of COVID. I don't even know where we are right now in this. I know the whole world and nation isn't quite as much, or it may be a little bit different, but for us, for sure, it's just unique. So I'm curious, what do you guys think some of the stressors are, or we'll call them thieves, like thieves of joy, that we're up against this Thanksgiving uniquely? So you want to start us off, Michelle?
Sure. I think, 2 words come to mind for me personally. Comparison is one. And I think with comparison, I remember there's a quote that says, comparison is the thief of joy. And anytime I find myself comparing, I'm going to feel like I'm not doing a good enough job, and that goes hand in hand with my other word, perfectionism, and I think just really embracing that this year has been anything but that in a lot of ways, and just really seeking being together, and just being present together. Because that's what it comes down to this year, especially, is just being together as family and close friends.
Yeah. And I think with that too, it's funny because normally when I think of comparison, I think about comparing myself to others. Like when I am on Instagram and I see what someone else did with their kids for Thanksgiving. I'm like, well, they did a better craft than us, or they made a better dessert meal together and they were all smiling while they were making it, or whatever. But this year, even not comparing other past Thanksgivings to this Thanksgiving. That's a really good thought, because this year's may look different for a variety of reasons.
Definitely.
So
and there's beauty in that, right? If you see it.
If you choose it.
Yeah, if you choose that.
Yeah. And being aware of it ahead of time, I think can help with that.
Definitely.
Absolutely. What do you think, Heidi, are some of maybe those thieves of joy that we can be on the lookout for?
I think this year in particular, a thief of joy would be worry. Because we're so worried about friends and family members who might be ill or vulnerable to COVID and things going on. And, but really just, having those concerns of, just not sure of what the future holds, but really just, if we just take the time to step back from the worry and look at the things that are consistent. An example of that would be the blue sky, regardless of the clouds that are above us, or the smoke in the case of, months past or weeks past of having, a
fly joining us in our conversation today.
Of having just, the smoke or whatever, whatever the layer is above us is the blue sky, and the blue sky is consistent. It's always going to be there. The sun will always rise and always set, and the moon in its time will show itself to us in full light. And just noticing the things that are consistent, and knowing that there is, even though we have these little things in our lives that cause us to worry, we can be grateful and thankful for the things that are consistent in our lives, and to really just sit back and appreciate those things, even the consistency of family and the consistency of some friends, just always being there for us. And I think so, just taking a different perspective and not worrying so much, but just being appreciative of the little things in our lives.
Well, I think that's wonderful. And also, this will be our first holiday after the election too.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that. That could be another potential place of worry, is knowing, when you come together as a whole family,
right?
The odds that everybody in your family is either celebrating or mourning the election together in the same way is pretty slim. But there probably are people coming from different places, but choosing to say, you know what? I'm not going to worry about where the differences are, and I'm going to celebrate the things that are the same within our home and the things that are consistent in our relationship. It is still my uncle so-and-so or my grandma, whoever, whatever it is. And maybe even, just being aware of that. So that's great. Yeah. Okay. So I do wonder too, what for you setting a vision for a meaningful Thanksgiving, what is the meaningful Thanksgiving vision that you set, Heidi, for your family?
Well, talking about things that are consistent, just bringing an idea of being thankful and grateful for the things in our everyday lives, even the mundane, being able to walk outside and see the flowers bloom, or the opportunity for our family to get together and to be together. I have my extended family is far away from me, so I have to create my own Thanksgiving with friends. And so we usually, there's that fly again.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we have friends that we get together with and celebrate Thanksgiving. And it's just being appreciative of having a community and people that we can be with, given the current state of everything. And so just wanting to place that in my children. They're older now, but we've always done that, where it's, we need to be appreciative of who we're with and when we're with them, because time is of the essence, and tomorrow isn't promised to us. So we just need to have those sources of appreciation to be able to, connect with our family and friends in ways that are maybe more meaningful than just, a pass on the street or something like that,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
being intentional.
I think too, this Thanksgiving, even more than others, will appreciate that gathering that we can have.
Right.
Because who would have known that we would have been on months of not being able to gather? That gathering would feel like a privilege, in a different way. So Michelle, what about you? What do you think of when you think of having a meaningful Thanksgiving?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of things that Heidi shared with us, just focusing on the little things that really are the big things, and just, I think of even like the origins of the holiday, the Pilgrims, they were so thankful to be together. They'd been through so much. There's some, I guess you could say, similarities, it feels like, through this year, just we've been through a lot as a world and as a family. And so really creating a culture of doing that. And I've been trying to do it every year, where everybody has a placemat where they can write some things they're thankful for.
Oh, that's sweet.
And there was a year that I totally forgot they were there. We were just all talking and enjoying, but trying to do those things. And at the very least, we all go around and share one thing we're thankful for, because it's so important.
Yeah. I really like the idea of, when we're going into Thanksgiving, to talk ahead of time before the actual day about why are we even celebrating this with our kids. Because then I think it makes it more meaningful, because it reminds them of how much we do have to be thankful for, because we just take so much for granted.
Yeah,
we really do.
And this year, I don't want to say I'm thankful for like all of the hardships of this year, but in a lot of ways, the hardships have made us more thankful in our home. That they've made us more thankful for things that we otherwise didn't even consider as like a privilege or an opportunity or something to be a blessing. And so it'll be interesting this year hearing, because I know my heart, I feel like I have a million more things to be thankful for. Even just being able to sit with you guys is a blessing and something that I wouldn't have been as thankful for, a year ago at this time. So it'll be interesting to see how that also translated to our kids, how they chose thankfulness in ways that hopefully they caught that as well.
Yeah. And I think it's a good opportunity for us also to listen to our kids. I think of a story that, we get so busy and caught up. And a friend of mine was living in Prague at the time, and they needed to get to the train. And so she's running with her daughter and just dragging her and like, let's go, we're going to be late. And her daughter just like yanked on her hand and said, Mommy, stop. And she said, well, what? We have to go. And she said, look. And she pointed to the ground, and on the ground was this beautiful mosaic. And her daughter just caught her, attention and directed her to look at that and to notice. And I think we as moms get so caught up in just that busyness and the rush that when our kids, bring us that little caterpillar or that little flower from the yard or whatever, that we should really just stop and recognize and be grateful for those little things, because we need that time to slow down. We're busy in different ways this year, really with, like I said, just like the stresses of everything else, but emotional, to really,
it's differently draining. It's heavy.
Yeah.
In a different way.
Yeah. Usually it's the activities, the sports and the classes and all the things, even work, but I think that this year we're busy in a different way and maybe more in our minds than, actually physically busy.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned like when kids do things, and I think trying to get in a habit, at first I think it seems so silly, but once you get in a rhythm of it, it doesn't seem silly anymore. Of even saying those things out loud to them, like, wow, that's so beautiful, that caterpillar that you found. I am so thankful you found that. And look at the beautiful colors it has, or whatever it is. But like giving them that vocabulary of thankfulness. Because if we just say like, oh, that's a nice caterpillar, or oh, cool, I'm so glad you found that, we should say that. Still meaningful. But when we actually give them the language of, wow, this is something to be thankful for, or what a special thing, that it's instilling that in them. It's training them in that vocabulary for their lives. So I think Thanksgiving is super important for children and for adults. I think both, it has different important weights for. Why do you think it's an important holiday to celebrate? You want to go first, Michelle?
Sure. Well, I love the placing of it in the calendar. I love Thanksgiving and I love Christmas. But it wasn't probably until I was older, I was an adult and even a parent, that I really started appreciating Thanksgiving coming before Christmas, because I mean, it's so easy to see how, our culture and all of us to some extent have created this more consumerist Christmas experience. That's totally the opposite of Thanksgiving, And so I think really spending some good time on Thanksgiving, being thankful that you can't help it but to continue,
carry that over.
Carry it over into Christmas. So I don't know. I just love the placement of it because I think it just goes together.
Well, and you could be intentional about that too.
Yeah.
I think rather than, because when I think about preparing for a holiday, I think about the preparation that goes into it in advance. So like I said, like reading books before, like the week before, or we've done other activities to prepare our hearts to being thankful and then celebrating it on Thanksgiving. But what if we use Thanksgiving even as a starting point of saying, let's intentionally focus on being thankful now for the next 30 days.
Yeah.
And
it sets the stage.
That'd be really a different tone going into Christmas. That's a great thought.
Yeah.
What do you think, Heidi? Why do you think it's important?
Well, like I said before, for myself, just not being able to be with family that's far away, but having that community, and it's a time to come together and be intentional and to be thankful together. And I think, a lot of times in our own families, maybe we can feel like we're alone in certain ways, but to be together and to acknowledge, my thankfulness for them in my life. And so I just really appreciate those things. But I agree with what Michelle said. It's the placement of Thanksgiving is really perfect because it sets the stage for Christmas. And I think a lot of times, though, we tend to lose it. Yeah. We're in this mode of being so thankful and so, grateful for the things in our lives. But then, the next day,
the to-do list.
Yes.
Well,
everything.
It's the Black Friday sales and it just transitions into this, I don't know, maybe lack of gratitude, but to embrace the gratitude attitude and to keep it throughout Christmas, until Christmas time. And I remember a few years ago, maybe it's like 10 years ago now, there was a book that was published by Ann Voskamp called 1,000 Gifts.
Yes.
Love that.
And she, on her blog, I don't know if she does it still, but she had where it was, you would have your children write down 3 things that they were grateful for based on a topic or a subject. So like 3, you would choose 3 things that were red that you were thankful for, or 3 things that were fluffy that you were thankful for, or whatever it was. Cool. But so if we maybe did those things with our kids to keep the idea, it's simple. It's something you can do at the breakfast table or at the dinner table, or even like a quiet time in the afternoon when you're sitting with your child, maybe one-on-one, or, but even for yourself, just to write it down in a journal of what are the 3 things maybe that I'm thankful for today that I wouldn't think of that I would be thankful for, it's something just sort of different. But if we just keep that attitude of gratitude through Christmas, because it really, again, like Michelle said, it's just the perfect placement. It really sets the stage for the holiday that's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So talking about the gratitude of being together as family too, and just that Thanksgiving being important because of that. Do you think you've always had that with your family, or do you think it's something that you built over time?
I think it's something that as I got older, I recognized more. I think when I was younger, I kind of took it for granted. I mean, I'd get together with my cousins and we'd play games and, that kind of thing. But I think as I've gotten older, it's caused me to really pause and think about, because, as I've gotten older, my family members, my aunts and uncles and, grandparents are now gone and things like that. So time carries on. And I think looking now, it's like I really need to, I didn't appreciate it then. So I wish that I would have had that instilled in me to be thankful then for having the opportunity to spend with those family members. And then, so now, we have family members that live far away, but to be able to, when we do see them, if we see them on Thanksgiving, to just be grateful for that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's really special that as moms that we get to create the tone in our homes. It's like a wonderful privilege. And also it can feel like this huge burden of like responsibility. Like, how am I going to do this well enough? And I guess kind of like Michelle, maybe going back to one of those thieves of like perfectionism or comparison. Am I going to do a good enough job? And am I going to be able to be a present enough mom? So let's look at getting into Thanksgiving kind of on the proactive side. So let's look proactively, like how are we going to fight against those thieves first, and then we'll talk about what are we going to do intentionally to make it a meaningful Thanksgiving for our family. So first, you guys both talked about kind of different thieves of joy. Do you want to go first, Michelle, about how you would try to fight against or prepare to be on guard against those thieves?
I think for me, and this has come from years of learning, but I think for me around certain holidays or traditions, I try to take a step back from social media for me personally a little bit, because, if I remove that, then I'm removing the window into so many people's worlds that it's easy for me to do that. And it depends on my heart at the time. Sometimes I'm looking for ideas like, okay, I loved what, so it's kind of have to see where your heart's at. But I think, there's that. But also for me, I tend to see or think of a lot of ideas, and then I end up not doing them perfectly well. You know what I mean? And so one thing I've learned about myself, and maybe you can relate, but just pick one thing and do it well. So if it's every morning during breakfast, we're going to all share 3 things. And if I focus on that one thing, then personally as a mom, like I'm creating that culture, that tradition, and it's doable and all
it's not
stuff.
A burden.
It's not, I don't have to order a book or a whatever. I think just keeping it simple, if you're in that season. But hey, if you're really like, man, we're going to read this and this in this book or whatever, go for it. But I've learned that about myself, that I have to be gentle on myself as a mom, that I'm not piling too much on myself to make me feel like I'm doing a good enough job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that also goes back to knowing yourself and knowing your kids too.
Yeah.
Of what really serves my children best.
Yes.
And I realized that we have this one book that we've loved. It's on Old Fashioned Thanksgiving is what it's called. So if you haven't read it, you should look it up. It's a really good book. And it's super sweet. And my kids have gotten in the habit that they know that's a rhythm they can expect and they look forward to it. And one year we didn't do it and it was after Thanksgiving. They said, Mom, we never read our book. And I didn't know that it had become a tradition. It was just something we did. I didn't know that it mattered, but it did. And so picking things that this is special to them. One of the things, thinking about the perfectionist thing also, that I think that sometimes there's an expectation that something look a certain way, and realizing that how it's going to look here may not be the same way it looks somewhere else. And actually, it may not even look the way the other people are showing it either. That also may be real. It may look a certain way, but that may not be the real life of what it actually looks like. But figuring out what things do matter to me, and then setting myself up to actually do those things well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's great. What do you think? Because you mentioned the worry thief, Heidi. How would you fight against that or prepare for that?
Wow. It's just, I think it would just have to be, finding hope. Trusting that, that you're, I don't know. Trusting that you're going to be cared for, trusting that you're going to, you're not going to be robbed of those moments that are special, and maybe just, this year being different, you might not have family members that come together, but, taking the time to reach out together with the people you are with others, but I think just like I was saying earlier about just find the consistencies. What do you know to be true? And what are the consistencies in life? Whether it's that friend who can listen to you and share life, or if it's the blue sky that you go out and look at every day, or it's the, you can guarantee that your child is going to run in and give you a big, peanut butter and jelly hug, or whatever it is that you just take the moments to let the worry just wash away.
Yeah, soak those in for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so then if we go on the intentional side of what am I actually doing to create a meaningful Thanksgiving? One of the things that I realized that was important to my kids were certain food items. And we talked about, okay, what things really matter to you? And I had to kind of also reset their expectations for that, in realizing I can't do everything because I have a lot of small people, and it's important to me that their hearts feel loved on Thanksgiving, more than that we have, 8 different options of meal items that everyone has their very favorite. So one thing I started doing a few years ago was finding out ahead of time what's important to you, so I could try to at least have one important thing for each person that matters to them to eat. And especially if it could be a breakfast and not Thanksgiving, lunch or dinner, that would even be ideal, because then I can kind of divide the cooking love, But then figuring out if there were ways I could make some of those things ahead of time, because of having all small children, I can't be standing, there's certain things that require in the moment prep that I just can't do. But if it's something I could make ahead of time and have in the fridge or the freezer, so then I can pull it out that morning and then put it in the oven, was a game changer for me, because then it allowed me to actually be with them, and also to set them up with some things that were fun for them while I was doing the cooking. So you mentioned, Michelle, having Thanksgiving placemats. I covered our table in butcher paper and got out markers and crayons and said, all right, we are going to use this whole space to color things we're thankful for. Aww. So while I was in the kitchen, they were near me, That's awesome. But they were actually doing something that was meaningful, and it was like feeding their hearts. And I mean, of course, like the baby colors on themselves, and like someone messes up and cries. So it's not all perfect, but it's moving towards the goal that I have. So what about you guys? Any specific thoughts on what you would do to move towards a meaningful Thanksgiving, of what your hearts are? Either.
Did you have something?
Well, I like what you said about making sure that each person feels, each child feels valued and, like heard. And I think that, having those, what is important to you, asking, I think I would say that would be a way to move towards a meaningful Thanksgiving, is to hear each person and what their desire is, and to give them that little gift of, we will have, our sweet potato casserole, or we will have that apple pie that you love so much, and as a way of, showing love and acknowledgement for that, little person, or even the big person, you have your, we had a grandpa that always had to have his mashed potatoes, and he would always make them. And so it became a tradition for my kids to have it. And then once he passed away, they weren't there anymore. So I've taken on that tradition of being able to provide that for them.
That's beautiful.
So,
well, guys, I know this is going to be so encouraging and just so applicable to so many moms. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. I appreciate it, and can't wait to hear about your Thanksgivings.
Yeah, right,
thank you.
Thank you.
God has so richly blessed us all. In this year, our gratitude for the little things has come back in ways that may have been lost over time. The little things have become the big things once again. It's almost as if we have an opportunity for a complete paradigm shift this holiday season. Starting now with Thanksgiving, let's intentionally focus on building a culture of gratitude in our homes. Find those things that are unchanging, that God has blessed you with, and speak your thankfulness for them out loud with your family. When listening or singing loudly to music with your children, say out loud, I am so thankful that God gave us music to enjoy together. Or when there's something in nature that catches your breath, such as a snow-capped mountain or the crunch of leaves beneath your feet, pause and thank the Creator for their beauty. Look at those beautiful mountains God gave us to enjoy today. Or, do you hear that? How kind that God made leaves to crunch beneath our feet every fall. It's important to say it out loud for you and your children to hear. Let's use this season to direct the hearts of our children toward gratitude. I want to invite you to join me in a gratitude challenge. Each day, for the next couple of weeks, we'll be putting a new gratitude challenge out on our Instagram and Facebook. It will be almost like a scavenger hunt that you can do as a challenge with your children through the day. Maybe looking for something soft that you're thankful for, or something sweet that you're thankful for. And then share the things you are thankful for on your social media with the hashtag seekwhollyliving, so we can share our hearts of gratitude with others. Choose to extend your gratitude past the Thanksgiving meal, and use this holiday as a springboard of thankfulness that will go with us into the Christmas season and the coming year. May your mom heart be so filled with thankfulness and joy that it overflows to everyone you have the privilege to serve this holiday season. I hope you join us with our gratitude challenge at Seek Holy Living on Instagram or Facebook. Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any of our weekly conversations. And check out our show notes below, where I have links to the resources mentioned on the podcast. I release a new podcast every Monday and additional content at seekwhollyliving.com, including a video of this conversation and a deeper dive into all things mom. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Seek Holy Living for more fun and conversation. If this was an encouragement to you, please share it with your friends. And join us next week as we talk about reading aloud with children.